Hello, everyone. It's Charlie. Day 3, August 1st, party time. I haven't slept. Don't know about you. I want to do a little bit of updates for you before we get into this amazing panel that I think, I have a feeling some of you may be familiar with some of the work of the people we are talking to, but also the subject matter. So a couple of quick housekeeping things. I'm not going to speak fast, Berto. I'm going to speak slowly and with enunciation. First things first, wanted to update you. We have launched our Change a Life effort. This is near and dear to all of us at Gish. Giles has introduced us to a few organizations in Ukraine that specifically are going to be helping some highly marginalized and highly targeted groups in Ukraine in active hotspots. I'm watching the fundraiser right now. In a matter of 3 hours, we're already past 14% of the goal. We are helping specifically LGBTQIA plus Ukrainians and Ukrainians with disabilities. These two groups have been targeted by Russia. These two groups are at risk. So your help, your support, we are not asking you to donate. We are asking you as part of Gish to go out and spread the word, to go out and tell everybody you know and get other people to donate. Because if we all come together and do that work, we'll get it done. So it is up in the list. You should check out the conversation between Misha Collins and Giles Deli about why he's actually there now in Ukraine, and we'll be reporting what's happening there from on the ground. These two groups need your help, and it's a fraught situation. So please help us with our Change Life Ukraine. You're doing great, already 14% in just a few hours. So let's do it. Let's get it done. Lots of new items, lots of new updates in the items. So go check the updates page. And pace yourself, take care of yourself, keep creative. And that's why we're all here actually right now, is to get a little creative juice flowing. I'm so excited. First of all, these two people have created content that I love. And it's always such an honor to be able to be connected with people who are so creative and so talented. So first, we got Sam Maggs, who, if you were an upgraded member, I believe, of Book Bash, Sam is a best-selling author of many books, comics and video games, and she's led narrative lead for Wizards of the Coast digital publishing and licensing division, and written for games like Call of Duty Vanguard, which I handily played way too much, as well as Tiny Tina's Wonderlands and Marvel's Spider-Man. Author of many YA and middle grade age books, The Unstoppable Wasp, Conquest, which we're going to talk about, Tell No Tale. There's so many different things, comics, video games, books, creator of many universes, let's say. A Canadian in Los Angeles. We won't hold that against her. She misses Coffee Crisp and bagged milk, I believe. Patrick, who is here. Hello, Patrick. Joined BioWare in 2005, and since then they have worked on the Mass Effect trilogy as well as Dragon Age, which we will not hammer you for details on. I've been told expressly by many handlers to not harass you about this. However, you've also written several novels, Dragon Age, Rogues of the Republic, so many great works of both of you. It's also worth mentioning, I just want to do a little thank you to both of you. Both of you are very familiar with Gish, and you actually know a lot about the great work Gishers do. You joined us with Misha in, I think it was 2019. You were at Comic-Con with us, handing out cookies to raise money and awareness for the Valverde Border Humanitarian Coalition. So thank you. Let's start there. Thank you very much for helping us with that.
Oh my gosh, that was a blast. I would do it anytime. And not only did I help out with that, I was a Gish participant in 2016. I had my own little team. We did not great, but it was the most fun and probably the most unhinged week of my life. It was amazing. And then I wrote a whole book about it.
That's right, which we will talk about. Patrick, thank you also for being there. I remember you handing out cookies and you being in mortal danger and still continuing on with all the people in the hallway.
With the people desperately trying to get past me to get to Misha, or possibly the cookies, because they were good cookies. They were.
chocolate chip cookies, as I recall.
They were
from,
amazing.
Homeboy Industries, which is
Yeah.
an amazing organization unto themselves.
But thank you so much for having me then, and thank you so much for having me now.
So we're so honored, honestly, for both of you to be here. I think let's start at the meat of why we're here. I mean, between both of you, I feel like you've pretty much covered every professional writing discipline possible. I don't know if there is another that you haven't, but you're respected pioneers as authors of modern formats such as video games and sort of narrative storytelling. What are your thoughts, as professional writers today for formats that didn't exist 50 years ago? What do you want to offer this group of people about what storytelling is and needs from burgeoning writers or writers here in the community? I would say let's start there.
Something that I always say is that if you want to make something and put something out there, there's really never been a better time. A lot of the barriers to entry now have been removed. I mean, it used to be if you wanted to make a comic, you had to look a lot like other people who made comics and wait for one of them to find you and then decide to publish you. Now, if you want to make a comic, you can just make it and put it on the internet and put it on Instagram or Twitter. Or, if you want to make a video game, you can use Twine and put it out there and cultivate your own audience. And the thing is that there is a big audience out there for media that is written by people who don't normally get to write it. And I think there's never been a better time. Each of us has our own really unique voice and expression, and we need your voice more than ever right now. So if you are considering making something, I just encourage you so much to put it out there because there's really never been a better time to do it and to tell your own unique story, because we need it.
I would 100% agree with everything Sam said. The thing I really love is how young a lot of the media is right now. Something I remember vaguely was the first time, for the first few years, they were doing movies. The movies that they did were basically stage plays that happened to be filmed. And the first time someone actually did a camera shot to go from outside a burning building to inside the burning building, people in the theater didn't know what was going on. They were like, what? The camera was here and now it's here? What is this camera cut you speak of? And now, like a century later, we all as media consumers understand all of that. And I really feel like the new availability of media makes all of that. We're just scratching the surface of what interactive media can do, I think, of what streamed media, things you put, like Sam said, things you put out over the internet. You can be so much more reactive. You can have a lot more control. It can combine, I think, some of the best features of doing live performances with doing performances that aren't usually in front of a live audience. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what the new voices come up with, what things they do. As like I said in the bio, I've been doing video games for a while, but I want to see what the next generation thinks to do that blows my mind and makes me go, oh, yeah, I guess I have kind of been doing movies or TV shows, but as video games, and here's someone doing something entirely new. I'm really looking forward to seeing, what those people make.
So true. I mean, I think, the modern sort of deployment of the story and how and where and to whom, meeting the powerful story, is how we're going to evolve both the platforms and the storytelling itself, right? We're going to open up the diversity of it and open up the technology or the way in which we receive it. Do you think there are any other sort of story, like what is unique today in terms of how a storyteller operates? Are there things that you feel like are super important now in terms of who you're talking to or what you're doing for yourselves as writers to create that sort of unique and modern take?
Well, I think it's twofold, honestly, and I also want to hear what Sam thinks, because she's got a different perspective than I do and brings a much cooler voice. But I feel like in many cases the who is as important as the what, because you kind of need to do both things. We need we need to push the medium forward. We need to tell new stories. Like, just as a totally random example, one of the things I loved was in in the first Life is Strange, just being able to make choices and then see the percentages of who picked which choices afterward and go, oh, I was playing someone really kind of fringe on this side, but I was with the majority on this part. Like, it makes me think about the choices that I made in different ways. But I also think it's vitally important that we get classic stories that are coming from more diverse viewpoints. Like, I'm like not in video games, but I'm watching Ms. Marvel. I just finished watching Ms. Marvel on Disney Plus, and I am a white person, and a lot of this was news to me. And it was like, okay, this is basically a fairly traditional superhero coming of age story. But then there's a Muslim wedding, and there's Muslim culture, and there's so much stuff. And it wasn't for me, and I loved it because I was like, this is stuff I don't know. This is stuff that's totally new to me. And I'm getting to see this through someone else's eyes. And it's awesome. It's a great introduction for anyone who's like, if you are curious about other cultures and have a mind that is open to new experiences, then seeing content that isn't for you is just a win because it gives you a viewpoint into someone else's life.
Yeah, that's such a great answer. And I think it's really cool that you said I'm cooler than you, because that's probably the only time anyone's going to say that to me ever. So thank you for that. No, I mean, for me, it's all about telling your most authentic stories. It's exactly what you said. Like, I can only speak for myself, but I grew up not seeing the queer relationships that I needed to see represented in media. I grew up not being able to really play female characters in video games, which is why I attached myself so fiercely to Baldur's Gate and then eventually ended up at BioWare, because it was like the only place that let me be a gay girl like in a video game forever, that I knew of anyways. These were in the pre-internet days, folks. We are both quite ancient, but like it's just so important to do that because there are other people out there who need those stories. I really needed those stories and I didn't get them. And I don't know. I think every time that we are able to tell our own stories, there's someone else out there who's going to feel a little bit better about themselves and feel like their experience is made a little bit easier and they are a little more normal by seeing themselves represented on the screen and on the page. It's really important. So basically what Patrick said.
Yeah, and I love both of those, because for the people in those communities who are not being represented, and for the people who need more exposure to other culture, other idea, other identity, it gets so boring to see the same things over and over again. Why wouldn't we advocate for these things? Why would we advocate to have the same packaged person place over and over again? It's mind-numbing.
Totally.
Well, I'm gonna drop the F word here. We're gonna talk a little bit about fan fiction. I know. I don't know if anybody here knows about that. Obviously you're both writers of intellectual properties, Star Wars, Marvel, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, but you've also been open about your support of transformative fiction. And for this group of people, you might not know, they are pretty big fans of fan fiction. I think, the question I have to you is why is fan fiction a healthy manifestation, or how is it a healthy manifestation of fandom? And do you think fan fiction has done a service to popular properties, honestly?
Patrick, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I 100% think it is. It is positive. Fan fiction is a new term for something that has been around forever. Since the first person told stories around the campfire, there has been someone else going, that's cool, and then on their own going, I bet this other thing could have happened too, and that's amazing. It takes one story and makes it everyone's story. And I think there is room for stories of all types. There is room for the goofy. My stories, my involvement with fan fiction is of the goofy crossover side. You may not know this, but I didn't put this in the bio because I didn't want anyone to be intimidated, but I am the proud author of Timelines, which was a Highlander / The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. fanfic crossover that relied on the fact that a recurring character on Briscoe County Jr. was actually a guest star in an episode of Highlander. So I decided he was an immortal.
It's incredible.
And so for me, that was light and that was fun. And that was a chance for me to work on voices and go, here are the things I like seeing. And honestly, some of the scenes in that goofy fanfic I took and used later in, stories of my own, with characters I was creating. But in other cases, people are using fanfic to fill in the blanks. A character is injured and the next episode, the character is mostly back to normal. And they kind of say, wow, I wish the episode had spent more time with that character hurting and being in discomfort and showing the emotions of someone taking care of them. And bam, you've got a hurt comfort fic of people doing that, or people exploring, I wish this relationship were the same thing, except in a coffee house, as occasionally happens on AO3. And those are ways for people to process emotions. And I think, I don't know, I feel like the world that I'm living in doesn't have enough healthy ways for people to process emotions right now. And writing your own fiction, whether it's you fixing the ending of something that you wish had been done differently, or filling in blanks, or doing your own spin on something, I think that's a great way to just get your feelings out on paper.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's a further part to that, which is, and not to keep harping on the same thing, but I'm going to, my bad. But there were just no queer people on television or the media that I loved forever. And there should have been, and there was for a very long time, a lot of subtext written into shows, whether they meant it or not. It showed up there.
Subtext?
I never have watched Supernatural, so I wouldn't be talking about that. But if I, other things, obviously,
Sure.
that was a lie. But we wanna see these relationships represented.
Yes.
We want to be able to say oh yeah, I'm not making this up. Other people see this too. I want to read about it. I want to be able to see it. I want to lots of people's point in the chat, and to Patrick's point as well. I want to fix it. I want to fix this thing that doesn't show me what I'm getting. And the only person who's going to give it to me is me and my community. So I have to make that thing. Yeah. And then you're able to make it and put it out there, which is pretty wonderful. I personally have spent a lot of time, too much time for a professional, recently reading a lot of steady and romance Stranger Things fanfic, which has been great for me personally. But it's great. That's what I want to see, and so I want to read about it, and it's great. The other part of it is that I professionally, for a living, Charlie, as you mentioned, am an IP writer. I've written Captain Marvel, I've written Luke Skywalker, I've written Transformers and My Little Pony and Star Trek and a million other IPs. And what is that except for sanctioned fan fiction? They let me make this stuff up and then they pay me for it. And the great thing about fan fiction writing, which Patrick kind of touched on, is that it allows you as a writer to practice getting the voices right for existing characters in worlds that already exist, without getting stopped up by things oh, I'm going to write something, but now I have to worry about world building and character creation. And I have ADHD, and that can I can really get lost in a tunnel of that before sitting down and actually writing anything. Fan fiction is that already exists. You just get to go play with the characters now, which is exactly what IP writing is. And it's really good practice for that. And there aren't a lot of people who get to create their own IPs. A lot of the time as a professional writer, you're going to be playing in other people's sandboxes. It's really good practice for that, frankly. And I don't know, I think we were talking on a chat before this panel, and one of our friends, Kristen Lindsay, who works for Gish and is here, hi Kristen, said that when men write fan fiction, it's called a treatment or a spec script. And when women write it, it's called fan fiction. And it was kind of like, yeah, that's,
Yep.
you got it. You got it.
Okay, first of all, I have to address something. This is my skin tone. I am Irish. I'm wearing a very warm hat. I'm not blushing. This is me listening intently.
Totally.
I'm always this color. Okay. Second, if we play with dolls and toys and figures and things as children, and we have this imaginative play, fanfic can be imaginative play. It can be all these things. We are doing what we've always done. And so the discrepancy between those two things is kind of bananas to me, honestly.
Well, and I feel like, I mean, this generation has been about media forms that are blurring the lines between this is something entirely creator owned and this is something interactive. I mean, what is a video game except something that lets you put yourself into someone else's world and help tell that story? And that can be fun and that can be goofy. And sometimes if you are someone who grew up as a teenager in the 90s and didn't have a lot of trans or non-binary representation, you go, oh, I just want to play as the girl character because it's fun and it's different. It doesn't mean anything. And then like a decade later, you work through your stuff and change your pronouns and realize that was part of your process of working through that, was going, what would it be like to go through this adventure as a woman? Wow, that makes me feel some things. I wonder what that's about.
When I look back and realize every piece of art I'd ever made was about women loving women, and I was like, does this mean something?
It's like possible. Was young me working through some stuff? Yeah. I wonder.
Is this wish fulfillment? I don't know. Probably not.
So I can't imagine. This might surprise you, obviously, but this community, Gish community, Supernatural, there's a substantial number of transformative works writers and creators. I think fan fiction, fan art, podfic, I mean, you name it. Do you have any words of wisdom for these creators who might want to turn their passions into something more, into something professional?
I think I would say do two completely contradictory things. That is my helpful advice. Do exactly what Sam said. Learn how to sound how to sound in character when you're working on someone else's voice, the tricks that make someone go, oh yeah, that's definitely a line that Castiel was saying. That's definitely what Optimus Prime was saying. That's definitely what Commander Shepard was saying. But also find your own voice as well. The parts where some of my best work came when I realized I had spent some time doing an imitation of the authors I wanted to be, and and one day went, okay, let me just imitate myself. Let me just be myself, because there are some things I can bring to the party. Like, I love Terry Pratchett, but I could either be a poor imitation of Terry Pratchett, the author, or I can do my own thing. And I'm going to take what he learned, take what I learned from him, but I'm going to go ahead and add my own voice to that. You're going to be stronger when you add your own voice in, because that, as Sam said, that brings your own experiences, your own diversity. So try to find that balance. And it's really, really hard. Let me know when you succeed, because you can tell me how to do it.
Yeah, it is kind of contradictory, because fanfic is great as its own thing, and you shouldn't feel any pressure to want to translate that into a career. If you don't want to, I think it's great. Just do that. It's amazing. We need you. Please, I need you. I'm holding on by a thread here. This is it for me. But also, like, if that is something that you want to do, the unfortunate truth is that people are not going to hire you to work on their properties unless they're able to see examples of what Patrick said, which is your own voice. and what you specifically and uniquely bring to the table. So if it is something that you really want to do, you need to put your work out there in other public ways, which means creating your own twine game, which means writing your own original comics, which means writing a short story and posting it online and promoting it. Means you have to make your own original work that shows your voice, your point of view, why people should want to hire you, what you're bringing to the table that everybody else out there isn't bringing already, which all of us have, which is awesome. But we can't, the people who do the hiring can't know that about you unless there's work of yours that we can read to hear your voice. And the unfortunate thing about being in this space is that like there comes a time where you're not allowed to read fan fiction of your own properties for legal reasons. So you can't just send us like your Mass Effect fan fiction and get hired. Like you'd have to send us something original. Although in fairness, to get hired at BioWare, Patrick knows this very well. After I submitted like my application, they were like, yeah, we can move you on to the next round. They asked me to write a Dragon Age Twine game, to write Dragon Age fanfic in a Twine. And they played it, and then they were like, all right, that seems okay. You can go for it.
Showed you could write to the
So
voice.
I don't know, maybe I'm lying, but they requested it, like they commissioned it. So at that point, it was fine.
Yeah. But did either of you, so Elizabeth asks, did either of you ever come across backlash for wanting to push the boundaries, and how do you handle that? I mean, I think there's a lot of people here who
No,
want
never.
to add something.
Never. We asked to add queer characters and people of color and stuff to video games all the time, and everybody loves that idea and has no problem with it ever. Which is great. It's been so great. I've never been told that two girl characters can't kiss ever. Yeah. So I don't know. It's amazing.
Are we answering that in the form of drinking?
Yeah, exactly. No,
it's they can be difficult at times. I think I feel like the most difficult part of the process is you have to make a business case for it. And that can be very difficult because honestly, it's not a business reason that I want this. It is a personal reason that having a character like this is important to me. But when you do it not as a hobby, when you do it as part of a company, that is the deal you're making, saying like, at some level, I'm trying to help y'all make money. So you have to be able to say like, okay, this would be really helpful because we are making this game to be diverse. And if we want this game to be diverse and show inclusivity, this would be a good thing to include. And when you're able to do that, when you're able to make the business case, most of the time, I've had pretty good luck. And I feel like, I've been really inspired and sometimes to my own discredit, surprised by other departments going, oh, hell yes, we were waiting for someone else to like want to do this. So yeah, let's do it. We'll go in and we'll need to rejigger a bunch of our art to make this work. But yeah, we'll make it happen. And like, that has been really awesome. Yeah. But again, the reason I can't speak for Sam, but the reason I write novels as well as writing games is because it is a team process, and there are times when you don't get what you want, and that is when you nod and understand the professional limitations, and then you go home and you write your own stuff where you don't have to answer to anyone, and you get to add anything you want.
This is where Patrick and I differ. I'll walk off projects.
You haven't done any of that recently, so it's fine. There's what I'm also hearing though in what you're saying, both of you, is if an industry or a studio or whoever that's hiring and wants to create commerce is looking for the business use case, part of that is also demonstrating that the community is large and growing and profitable and making money and wanting those stories. And so it's almost incumbent on the people watching right now to create content and community around that and hit up and show that off. Wear the shirt, do the thing. You know what I mean?
Sorry,
Like
someone in the comments asked to see it.
yeah, no, it's but I think it's emblematic. Like you need to show up and or your content needs to show up on your behalf, depending on what you're comfortable with, because then that's the way that they start paying attention. They pay attention to really very sort of minimum effort or minimum things in terms of what the metrics are to measure that sort of thing. So create the content, create the community, create the following, build on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to talk about a couple quick things before we wrap here, because we have a deliverable, a challenge, an item to put out there for all of you based on this panel, which we're very excited about. But before that, a little lightning round, confession time. Who are your OTPs?
I feel like OTPs are like ice cream flavors.
Yeah.
I don't have one that is my forever ride or die. Like I have my here's what I'm into right now. Like right now it is Luz and Amity from the Owl House, because they are adorable and it's super cute. Oh, yes. Okay, Fit and Poe is also pretty awesome though. But I'm coming off a long Catradora streak from She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. And I don't know, what about you, Sam?
My background is Mal and Molly from Lumberjanes, who are a big old favorite of mine. If you haven't read it, you should read it. I also, of course, being the big Mass Effect dork that I am, I love Shepard and Garrus. I love my hot alien boyfriend, obviously. My first OTP was Sam and Jack from Stargate SG-1. Patrick knows how much I love Stargate. Yeah. Very dorky of me. Thank you to everyone in the chat, the 4 people who also watch Stargate. I love that for us. And I also I really, man, my most recent OTP was Eve and Villanelle from Killing Eve, and they just really boned that one for me. Woo! But you want to talk about fix it, Fic? Get in it. Yeah. That was my most recent big one.
Yeah, that was rough. That's beautiful. Everyone's telling us that there are OTPs in the chat, which is great. Please, by all means. I want to give you both space because I want this group of people, this lovely group of people, creative people who support transformative content and pop culture content and novels and video games. Where can they find you right now? And what is something you're working on that you want people to, you deserve support. So how can we support you?
Okay. Well, I'm always on the internet, unfortunately. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Sam Meggs, just my name. And I'm also on TikTok at Sam Writes a Lot. You can find my work in, as Charlie said, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which just came out from Gearbox, Call of Duty Vanguard, which just came out from Sledgehammer. And I also just released a book, a graphic novel very recently called Tell No Tales, Pirates of the Southern Seas, which is a historical fiction where Anne Bonny and Mary Read kiss a lot, which is great. And I want to promote the book that I wrote based on my experience with Gish, which is called Conquest. It's a middle grade novel. It also has a cute sapphic romance, and it's about 2 twins who have to basically participate in Gish at Comic-Con. And it was a lot of fun to write. And I'm not saying there's a Misha Collins substitute in here, but there maybe.
But are you not saying it?
Maybe.
It's like a friend DA situation.
Yeah.
And I am on Twitter and the web as just my name. And I haven't put out a game since 2015. And I'm fine, and it hasn't been stressful at all. But someday that might change. In the meantime,
proud of you, Patrick. I'm proud of you.
I have the Rogues of the Republic trilogy, which is a fantasy heist caper that is meant to be lighthearted and goofy. And I have, let's see if I can see it, Feeder, which is my young adult novel that gets into kind of the ideas that a lot of teenagers go through. Am I really a person? Am I capable of transitioning to the changes of growing up and dealing with adult problems? Am I going to be able to defeat the secret monsters that the giant anglerfish symbiotically bonded to me destroys interdimensionally when they attack? And other things of that nature. It's kind of, my pitch for it was Buffy and the X-Men fight Cthulhu.
Really good. Sounds like my pubescence. Thank you. That sounds really healing to listen to read. Oh, that's so awesome. Please go. We're going to put out, let's put up their socials if we could real quick. I just want to make sure that we support what these two amazing creators. Yes, there we go. We will be putting this out also on our social. Make sure you follow them. Make sure you are participating in the commerce of people who are actively trying to diversify and uplift communities and change storytelling like these two, please. Now, let's talk about the item reveal, shall we? The item for this panel is fanfic through the ages, right? A special crossover fanfic of a character from a 1990s show, book, or video game, and a character from a 2000s show, book, or game meeting in a different 2010s universe. Post your item on social media and tag Sam Mags, Patrick Weeks on Twitter only, for Patrick, and Gish, hashtag Gish, 32 points. Listen, tomorrow we're going into the universe. Fraser Kane of Universe Today. It's going to take us out, and we're going to go astral projection out into the universe. And we got Lyle the therapy gecko for all of your unlicensed lizard psychologist needs. Lyle is going to take us through it all, but there's lots more to come for the rest of Gish. So pace yourself. We're going to party all week and see you on closing on Saturday. Man, we've had meetings all day about that. If you are in the San Francisco Bay Area, RSVP, we're holding it in a Masonic temple. So there's like a weird pipe organ and there's an LED wall and it's going to be very gishy. So thank you both. You're both invited to that if you'd like to come. Be very weird. Thank you both.
Charlie, thank you so much for having us. This was such a blast.
Thank you for having us on.
Talk about fan fiction with you anytime. And Patrick,
yes.
As always, I just want to say that Patrick has been my mentor in video games since my first day starting in this industry and is the most wonderful ally. And I know I'm really grateful for you, buddy. So
mentor makes me sound so much more competent than I actually am. So thank you for that. But I am just happy to take some distant credit for the amazing light you are bringing to this universe. So keep kicking ass.
Thank you all. Thank you both. Thank you, Berto. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you for having us.
All the Gishers.
Yes.
Go out there. Write what you know. Write what you feel. Bye.